Welcome to Future Sense Now, where we explore the landscape and byways of our shared futures. An e-zine of the Futures Forum live online. We exchange ideas, information, and inspiration about the futures we want. Get Future Sense Now with host Dr. Claire Nelson, futurist and editor of Human Futures.
Greetings and welcome to Future Sense Now, an online e-magazine of the Futures Forum. It's April 2020 and around the world we are going to be celebrating and have been celebrating Earth Day. There is World Creativity and Innovation Day, and April 23rd is Girls in ICT Day, Information, Communication and Technology. This year we're celebrating this in very challenging times globally. There's a global pandemic has never been seen before in a century. And so as we commemorate Girls in ICT Day, we really want to focus around the issue of the future of sustainability and the focus on the role of girls and women might play. And in this series for this celebration, we want to have a conversation with women around the world who are really making a difference in shaping the future we want. We know that SDG 5 focus specifically on gender, but ICTs is considered a transversal issue, in fact, almost a human right in approaching and supporting our global progress. So our questions might include how might be ICT support the recovery and regeneration of economies post-COVID? And certainly, more importantly, what might the future in ICT be, and how might that allow more girls and women to participate? So without further ado, I'm going to move right into welcoming my guest, Samantha Sheoprashad, and she'll correct me if I said it wrong, but I just want to introduce her with a few tidbits about her long CV for such a young person. She is known to be a social innovator and youth leader in her country and her region. She's from Guyana, South America. That's part of the Caribbean region as the only English-speaking country in South America. She is CEO and founding of Trifinity Solutions, I think the third or fourth company she started, but she'll tell us about that. She's also in the social and political space, known for her work as a CARICOM Youth Ambassador, and has been the winner of a 30 Under 30 award from an organization called the Institute of Caribbean Studies, born in Washington, D.C., which I should add, I found it. And that's how come I've met her. And also, without further ado, but to add, because this is very important, she's a Facebook developer lead for a Facebook company for Guyana and the Caribbean. So she's going to tell us more about the work she's doing as a social innovator in creating change in the ICT industry, and certainly in encouraging more girls in Guyana and the Caribbean, and in fact in the Caribbean community across the diaspora. So without further ado, Samantha, how are you?
I'm excellent this afternoon. I've, taken some time to relax and taken some time to work on my personal development and mental health through this crisis, because I believe we need to take care of ourselves first before we do anything else.
Well, I thank you for reminding me of that. Sometimes I do say I'm one of those people who probably work a little bit too much, but that said, I'm very happy you're able to make the time because I know you're very busy. So let's talk about 2030 and the fact that we seem to have a great pause, a great global pause. And we really want to focus the conversation on the future, recognizing that we have to walk through the wilderness we're in right now to get to the future. Tell me a little bit about as you look around what's happening now and you look to 2030, from your vantage point, how might the role of women and girls in ICT be emerging, be accelerating, be decelerating because of what is happening?
I believe this point in time, our instinct and our nature for innovation will start to kick in. And I believe women, of course, will play a greater role in our future's development. Many times we look at women as a weak figure, but I see us as a very strong figure, because the first thing is that God gave us the talent to create, right? And innovation and creativity are some of our known talent. That's our birthright. We were gifted with those things. So I believe that women will play a great role, an important role through this pandemic, because they will be able to understand and already understand some of the suffering that we are going through. For example, a mother who is stuck with her child at home now having to find a way to educate her child. She now have to come up with innovative ways to find and to research information that will help this child uh, be nurtured and have some growth as in terms of education. Apart from that, she have to find ways and means to protect that child well-being in mental health,
Mhm.
physical, and any possible way. Now the thing is that many times when we do look at it, yes, women are not given a chance. They're not at the table. I think this is going to be the prime time where we are going to find ways and mean to include
Mhm.
women, because the need has been much more arised for partnership and inclusion. And here is the prime opportunity, because we have no option.
We have no option. I want to go back to the thing you said about mothers will have to be there to take care of their children. Now, one of the issues, as we look at ICT, certainly from a Caribbean perspective, and I want to get your perspective on this, is that although we know almost everybody has access to a phone, and in some cases a smartphone, there are challenges in the digital divide in terms of affordability. Many of our schools in the Caribbean region may not have been, digital enabled. Paint me a picture of what is happening in Ghana. If the schools have been sent home, how are children who are not from the affluent classes really dealing with this issue? How are parents who have not, let's say, been trained on the internet dealing with having to now very rapidly understand what it is their children have been doing, playing games, for example, on phones?
It is very drastic. Um, right now, for even the high class, it's even difficult with the internet access that we get. Um, so you can imagine what is happening below, because those persons who don't have access, they just don't have any access to anything at all. Because you have to take into consideration, if you have a smartphone, right, they may not have the level of education to operate it in the way that they need to. Like, let's say, going on YouTube to find resources, they may not know how to maneuver the internet. That is one. Two, data access is very expensive for a normal family. Sometimes family don't even afford food, much less data, right? And you can buy a data plan here, and in a week it's finished when it comes to the phone, right? The next thing is, um, when it comes to understanding how our community works, there is not access all time to a computer lab or to resources that can help maybe a single mother or someone who doesn't afford it. I know there is free government Wi-Fi, but sometimes people use it mostly to connect with their relatives on social media or other social platform, because I think sometimes that is what it's most used for. And in some of the programs that I would have done in school was to help young people to understand how is it that they can use the internet for really and truly anything that they want to learn. And forget about that, you're limited and you don't have access. And when I got to the bottom of it, I understand that some of them do not even have internet at home, much less a smartphone. They don't have that type of access. So as much as they want to, come out of that paradigm or that realm in which they're stuck in, it's very difficult.
Got you. So really, in a sense, this situation has been really brought into a very visible level now with this pandemic in your country. This idea of a digital divide is now very obvious, and certainly we hope that with the uh, economic gains that the country is hoping to make, we will see something different. You said the government does provide some free Wi-Fi. Is this in schools only or in government
They
buildings?
have
How is that done?
they have they have been able to provide some of these things in public spaces, government buildings. I live about a few houses away from the community center, and I can pick up the Wi-Fi. I think it's 1 bar, but I can't use it because it's not something that you can just get 1 bar and use it, right? So persons would normally walk to the community center and they would use it, right? So I'm not sure about the school because I've been there on numerous occasions and I wasn't able to pick up their Wi-Fi signal. So I
Wow.
think there are select buildings that the Wi-Fi is being given, and they have been programs online that they have been using to make people more skilled in, I think it's machinery, and fitness and all of that. So there's a couple of programs that they have online, but it's open to those who are in the mechanic area.
Yeah. So we're not
So
sure
that's
yet. So you're not so sure now how actually children are managing right now. Do you have any
um
idea how children are
I can,
managing right now?
people are using WhatsApp, people are using Zoom.
Ah,
um
WhatsApp and Zoom got you.
yeah,
So,
people,
so that's how
teachers are,
that's how schools are managing and WhatsApp.
yeah, WhatsApp, and Zoom.
Got
I
you.
think they use Zoom mostly because that's what they have access to and that's what they know about. And teachers are getting parents au fait with Zoom and how they can use Zoom. I saw a couple teachers online having sessions, teaching their students as per normal, but they're doing it online. But one trouble I know that they will have is the internet bandwidth, because sometimes when you have calls, sometimes we have calls going on, and what happens is that you get a drop in the call. There's some issue going on. This morning I was talking to some of my colleagues from other countries, and we had to basically wait until that drop just go away, and then reconnect again.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. So tell me something more about your work as a Facebook developer lead. What does that mean, and what is involved with that?
So, my role as a Facebook developer lead is basically to connect the international community to our local ecosystem, to our local tech ecosystem here, and provide them with access to training, to exposure, and stuff like hackathon. Last week, we had our very first Spark ER, augmented reality, on Facebook platform. And in less than 2 weeks, persons are creating filters. Do you know those filters that you use on Facebook
Yes.
to make your face maybe look more nice, I guess? um, and all those interactive stuff that they have on the filters, persons are actually now creating that. Then we have bot automation that they're doing, artificial intelligence, and soon we're going to be launching another program under our belt called Hacktivity, that is going to focus on teaching the ordinary man computer science and entrepreneurship. Because basically, what we're doing is that we're looking to give information and bring access to the main street, right? Because most of the times persons are not having access to educational program because they simply don't afford it. I went a few months into Berbice. We were doing youth development and we were using challenges as an opportunity to create solutions for problems that will exist in our community. And most of the times, what we notice in the audience is that persons are not able to pay for tuition fee here, and I had to experience a young lady crying in front of me because she didn't afford education, and she felt that the information that was shared here was very, very valuable, and she wanted to know how she can continue and all of that. So that was something as big as bridging the gap there on a grassroots level, right? So my role is basically to bring resources to people who don't afford it, and to provide a platform that empowers people within the ecosystem. And our team, when we launched, was looking at empowering persons, and especially coders and developers, um, in the ecosystem for sustainable development.
So
And
are you working with only coders in Guyana or the whole region, the whole Caribbean region, or is it global?
it's global. It's global. we
Uh,
we we interact with persons from in Mumbai and Dubai. Sorry, not Dubai. I think it's Pune, um, and other circles like Haiti, Barbados,
so
Jamaica.
there are
Like,
circles in different. Okay, so as a Facebook developer lead, you're assigned a particular territory or country.
you're assigned a particular country,
So you're assigned
and
to Guyana, and then you work with other people like yourself in these other parts of the world,
yes.
and you work together to come up with things to do, and then you go back and share that locally.
Yes, and also
Ah,
globally, because right now we are moving a lot of our programs virtually, which has not been something that we have done before. And our global program is basically reaching every circle. And it has been very, very impactful because persons from Mumbai have been creating programs that we are now trying to do. And our team members have basically taken those programs. And why I can tell you it was impactful because they created filters in less than 2 weeks.
wow, that's interesting. So, in terms of your seeing, in terms of the girls in Guyana and the Caribbean, where you certainly have the sphere of influence as a CARICOM youth ambassador. I mean, you have the ability to not only reach youth ambassadors in your cohort, but cohorts before you. So you can probably reach 100 young people very easily. How are you seeing? I know in many Caribbean countries, especially in the high schools, we have a lot of like all girls or all boys high schools. Have you been able to do any specific work targeting girls as one of the leading young women in ICT in Ghana and the Caribbean region?
Yeah, well, CARICOM had a program called Girl in ICT. Um, and they started this program, I think was in 2010. And I've been a part of the program ever since. And until today, they have partnered with the government agency here and other tech agencies to have a program called Guyanese Girls Code. And last year, I think for 2 years, they were able to deliver to young girls in high school, and making sure that they are able to code, and not just code but give them internship as well, because a lot of the times we get to go to workshops and workshops and workshops, and then what's the end result? What am I learning this for? At the end of it, there's no job or no opportunity for me to um, continue to be progressive. And most times persons graduate out of university and not being able to find a job as well. So what I did with the program was to put them into tech space where they can enjoy benefits such as internship, and maybe later on they can have employment from those very same companies.
You talked a little bit about now that this pandemic has happened, a lot of more work is gone virtual. What are some of the emerging technologies and things you would see emerging out of this pandemic as somebody who's really in the heart of the stuff making things happen?
I think that AI, augmented reality, um, and a lot of communication tools would be very much necessary. I believe that we should have more educational platform that is focused into teaching, and that is even more inclusive when it comes to the differently abled and so forth, right? I see more of those technologies coming to place when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. I see there is going to be a lot more online tools that's going to foster business. Online payment platform is going to be something big because every business is driven by payments, right? And one of the things is that we should probably look at exploring something called a digital economy, right? And the digital economy obviously have to have some financial structure. So we need to definitely move the ecosystem to one where it's a digital ecosystem so that we have a virtual representation of every single thing that is contributing to our survival. So I see that there's going to be more as in terms of financial platform, um, ordering online, because obviously social distancing is contributing to us not being interactive and having to go to the business or the organization that we're looking to source their services from. I know that is going to be something. I think e-health is going to be a very, very big platform as well, because
Mhm.
persons are going to be looking for their health issues to be solved, and we need to find ways and means. How are we going to connect with these people virtually, and how are we going to provide assistance virtually? Because not everything is going to be physical, but there's going to be a lot of mental challenges. And I can tell you, on the ground right now, we're dealing with a lot of mental challenges daily. Even when this pandemic hit, I found myself in a very dark place. And had I not known what I, learned from some of our therapists and so forth, I would have probably been struggling. So imagine what is going on downstairs, you know?
Yeah. May I ask you a question? Before, because I know that people are saying digital is digital that, but certainly in terms of emotional and mental health, in a time when everything seems so uncertain and chaotic, how much really are you seeing in the marketplace some of your young people, some of the co-creators in the Caribbean region, being able to come up with suitable, online ways of helping people manage their emotions and their fears? That's number one. The other question I wanted to see, as you talk about a digital economy, has, in the terms of the work that you're doing as an ecosystem in Guyana, and hopefully with the other Caribbean people in Trinidad, Jamaica, whatever, coming together, have you young people been talking about how you might basically disrupt the status quo? Because that's really what has to happen now. We have to have young, fertile, creative imagination saying, hey, we've been complaining, we've been talking to the ministers, we've been talking to our parents, somebody's listening. You know what? Let the five of us just go ahead and do this. Bam! Is that really happening? I would love to hear. Yes! Please tell me something. I need hope.
I am telling you, yes, that is happening, because since COVID-19 has hit the ground, you're not seeing a lot of old folks inventing stuff. It's the young people, and they have been putting out. And I can tell you, here in Guyana, every week we have something new coming out. We have something new somebody's developing, and it's not really coming from older folks. It's coming from young people, because I believe that persons, their survival instinct obviously kicked in, and they obviously want to put out stuff out there that they connect with and that can help solve a problem. And that is what I saw happening, and when it comes to the digital economy, I don't think that is something that is being talked about, because the digital ecosystem and digital economy is still young yet. The conversation is still very young. I heard IDB have started talking about it during some of their online sessions and online meetings that I have been in. I also saw global entrepreneurship program. They have been looking at the digital ecosystem as a way of having digital governance, where decisions can be made, policies can be reviewed, and all of these things that is necessary. And then we have the digital economy, where we have the policies that is being made through to digital governance is being taken over to influence a new infrastructure, or an infrastructure that supports the digital ecosystem. And most of the time you're not hearing young people really talking about this concept, because like I said, it is very much young, right?
Yeah.
And people are now going to start talking about it. And to answer your first question, when it comes to mental health and
Yeah.
emotional intelligence and all of that, these are relatively um, young topics.
Yeah.
They're not so mature in the Caribbean.
Yes.
People are talking about it on the platform, but there is no prescribed alternative that people are coming forward with to say, well, okay, this is the go-to method, or this is the go-to app when you need to get this done. Um, I'm reworking entire series on emotional intelligence, and I did a program on emotional intelligence for software engineers
Oh,
recently. So I'll be putting that out maybe later on the platform, so that other persons can get access to it and understand, how your emotions are important, and how much it's important for you to take care of your emotions and understand them and understand how they work. Because if you don't know you, well, then you don't know nothing else, right? And no matter what degree, or no matter where you've been and who you met and all of that, if you don't know, you don't know nothing else. Because
that's so true.
yeah,
So true.
and I think persons have started. I know persons within the region, and also Guyana have started programs and projects that are basically looking at mental health and how persons are going to cope with it during this time, especially when people are losing their job and they have no opportunity and they have no way of income, which is a big deal for every one of us. So those are some of the things that people are focused on.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope that, that uh, people in the ICT community, the young people in the Caribbean digital economy, will be coming up with ideas as to how we can help our governments and leaders, solve the problem, because they by themselves can't do it. This we already know. When we think about um, this idea of AI and automation, I guess one of my fears has been the fact that when you certainly in North America, when you go to a store and they now no longer have a cashier, and typically that cashier was a woman, and then I'm wondering, oh my God, where's that person working now? So I've been one of the slow adopters to do self checkout, right? But no,
Yeah.
it's kind of you have to do it because when you go, there's nobody there, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to those people? So I'm thinking also about how do we ensure that people who are in the, let's say, ICT world and the digital world remember that yes, we can replicate everything in code in a virtual reality kind of platform, but in the outside world, it's real people who are losing their jobs, and we may not want to necessarily invent something and use it as yet until we have found a solution to the 1,000 people who are out of work because you have invented that thing. Is there a way, or is there a movement, if you will, for coding with a conscience? I'm going to use that term, coding with a conscience. Is there a movement around young people that says, yes, we can invent this, but if the government does deploy it, how am I going to train the people who would have had that job to be able to get some of the jobs based on my new invention? Is that this conversation happening?
I don't think that conversation is happening because, first of all, everybody wants to know how is it that they're going to cut um, their expense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to look at it, I don't think that AI is going to come to steal everyone's job, right? It's going to be there to better or improve the way that we do things. But I don't think that it's going to come to steal your job. or to steal your income or anything. But what you have to do is ensure that you are learning new skills, you're developing new skills, because our world is changing overnight. And obviously, we're going to need new skills to thrive in the current state that we're in. Because some of the skills that I very well know and took years to learn, I have to put some of those skills aside, and I have to
Yeah,
learn new skills right now. Right now, I'm all back in university. If you do ask me, I'm online learning new skills, and it's like, oh my God, I spent so many years learning
it's
X, Y, Z,
continue
and it's like
learning.
I'm going to school all over again. So as much as we don't like it, we have to adapt, right?
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
and when it comes to conscious coding, I think some of the big companies are very much aware of some of the situations that are happening, and I think they will um, definitely use the opportunity to create more opportunity. But at the same time, they will look at people's well-being, because for many of these companies, the SDG play an important role in their future development. For one, I know that Facebook Developer Circle, we have been adopting the sustainable development goals in some of our hackathons,
Mhm.
in some of our training programs. I made sure that in some of our programs, those things are there and they're in front of our developers. So when you're developing, you're not just developing, just for one small problem. You're looking at the bigger picture at the same time, whilst looking at the focus solution that you're working on. So that's one of the things that I can tell you about
Yeah.
our program.
Yeah. This is really good. Good information. So as we wrap up, um, I'm not going to ask if you're optimistic because I know you're an optimistic person. But in terms of your optimism, as you think about what's happening now, your work as a Facebook developer lead, the people you're coming across in the Caribbean community, the people you're coming across around the world that you're learning from, can you paint me a picture of 2030 that you think will be a success story in spite of where we find ourselves today?
Okay, so I think 2030. I'm looking at 2030 with more women at the table, being involved in their own human rights development,
Mhm.
being able to make decisions and have true impact in our society. I envision the Caribbean being a leading space for innovation and tech, um, at 2030, with women leading that forum, of course.
Well, that's a very good place to end, I think, to say
I
Caribbean women will be leading. I did want to ask, I was going to ask a follow-on question in terms of where do you think we'll be in creating a virtual reality Caribbean in which we can have, we don't have the sea dividing us. Where do you see us in the Caribbean being?
I probably see it happening maybe the next 10 years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I see
Oh,
that. I see that happening in the next 10 years, because we have some challenges that we need to iron out. And the faster our governments and private sector, public sector can iron those challenges out, we'll be fast on the road towards economic development and digital advancement.
yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Samantha Sheoprashad, for joining me in this conversation. Glad to have
And
you.
And thank you very much, Dr. Nelson. It was certainly a pleasure catching up with you and having this conversation. And I'm hoping that it impacts your audience and it provides them with some more insight as into how women can play a role in ICT development, not just only in their community, their country, and the region as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Friends, we have come to the end of another very insightful conversation. Our guest has been Samantha Sheoprashad, and she is the CEO and founder of Trufinity Solutions, a company in Guyana where she is located. She's a CARICOM Youth Ambassador. She's a Facebook developer lead for Guyana. She is a champion change maker among Caribbean young people, social innovation, and youth leader. I have been delighted to speak with her, and just wanted to thank you for joining us again on Futures Forum on Sage and Futures, Future Sense Now, where we explore the future we want. Remember that the future is embedded in the world around us today. It's up to us to co-create the future we want. And so until next time, as we say in Jamaica, walk good.
Thank you for listening to Future Sense Now with Dr. Claire Nelson. Future Sense Now is produced by the Futures Forum in Washington, D.C. For more information, visit www.thefuturesforum.org. Remember, our futures are embedded in the landscape of our present stories. Seize the day, share this story, and share the future.